Are you feeling like your faith tank is running on low or even empty? Well, you're just in time. Because today on the Lantern Room, we are going to be illuminating hope and how hope is the fuel of our faith tanks. In Isaiah 41, verse 10 and 13, God is literally giving us permission. Yes, permission to hope in Him. You heard me. He's given us permission to hope in Him. Let me read it, then you'll understand. He says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And then he says, "For I, the Lord your God, hold your right hand. It is I who says to you, fear not, for I am the one who helps you." Wow, that's a powerful promise. He says, I will. Not maybe, not if, not but. He says, I will. That in itself really gives me like a breath of fresh air. And I'll tell you in just a few minutes. Okay, so let's face it, many of us, especially in the last year since the pandemic, have found ourselves a little lower than usual within our hope. Our hope tanks kinda needing to fill up because of all the things that we've had to endure, the changes that we have been forced to make. However, due to the very verse and the very words of the Lord, who gives us permission to hope in Him, He says, wait for, hope for, and be not dismayed. That gives so many of us a reason to run to Him despite our storms. And let's face it, people, we're finding a few too many storms right now. However, we don't have to look at the storm. We look at our hope, our help. Now, when I think of storms, I think of a sailor on a ship at sea with his crew, and the storm waves are beating against the ship almost to the point of capsizing it. Hope is that lighthouse on the seashore, shining the light, blowing the foghorn. When the sailors and the crew hear that and see that, they suddenly get this this feeling of hope and expectation. If I just focus on the lighthouse and that sound and steer the ship in that direction, we will get to shore. Our storms, well, riding out the storm will be at an end. They'll no longer have to be wondering if they're going to stay alive, wondering where the seashore is. I mean, let's face it. During the rough storms at sea, if any of you have experienced that, if you're a sailor or fisherman or anything, it's not like the sky is clear. It's not like, there's like, you can see the beautiful starlit sky. There's fog. You're a little blinded. You're a little heavy-hearted because the water's rough and you're trying to keep the water out of the boat. When is the storm going to end? But then the lighthouse, you see the light on the seashore, and you hear the foghorn. Oh, wait! If we just head in that direction, we will get ourselves out of the storm, or we'll steer the ship in the right direction. Will come to an expected end. Okay, all that having been said, I say that to say this. Hope gives us an expected end. And that's what I'd like to illuminate today. Hope being our expected end. And I'm going to share how hope gave me an expected end during some of my life's roughest storms in these next few visits to the lighthouse. So right now, today, we're focusing on an expected end. Let's first take a look at Psalms 27, verse 13. David is declaring, What would have become of me if I had not believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living? He is giving us a very important clue here. Can any of you guess what that clue is? That's right. He believed. And as we further read in verse 14 of Psalms 27, he's telling us, the reader, to wait and hope and expect the Lord, to be brave and of good courage, and let your heart be strong and enduring. Yes, wait for, hope for, and expect the Lord. I can feel his courage coming out of that. The strength behind those words are as though David is telling us out of confidence, because He himself waited for and expected the Lord. It may not have been easy. I mean, he's telling us these words because he basically learned it. And now he's telling us, wait for and expect the Lord and have courage, because you're going to have a glorious outcome. A glorious expected end. I'm just pausing and reflecting for a moment. Pause and reflect with me. Wait for, hope for, and expect the end. A glorious end. Expect the Lord. Wait for, hope for, and expect the Lord. If we do what he is telling us in these verses, we are 99.99% guaranteed we will have a glorious expected end. Okay, stay with me here. It was those words that rang over and over in my spirit from the day my youngest son James was born in 1995 to the very day that we closed the chapter of his life in 2012. You see, my son James was born with a rare heart and lung disease. And this was very unexpected until the day he was born. Now, up until that day he was born, the only hope that I ever really experienced was a hope that I was going to pass my final exams and graduate. The hope that I would get into the art school that I wanted to get into. The hope that my wedding day was going to come off without a hitch. The hope that my 3 sons would be born healthy and with 5 fingers and 5 toes. And even the very hope that I have right now in my very being, that I am going to go to heaven because of Jesus. This hope that I experienced up until July 1995 was an easy hope. It was easy for me to hope. It was easy for me to expect something good to happen. But on that very day that James was born, he was born 3 weeks early, and they had to do a C-section, and I was awake-ish, and I saw that they weren't going to let me hold him like they had promised. They whisked him out of the room. And that very minute when they rushed him out of the room, I heard within my very being that verse that David spoke, that he wrote, wait for, hope, and expect the Lord. Now those words replaced a feeling that I had in my being, the feeling of sudden fear, sudden wonder. When those words rose up inside my spirit, and the voice behind it saying, wait for and expect the Lord, at that very moment, an unexpected hope and peace came. At that very moment when I was scared. It was like somebody was putting on my oxygen tank, my oxygen mask when I was needing oxygen. Well, needless to say, my hope became a little more difficult to grab onto. That was when the first of many rough storms started in my life. That was when I learned it was not always easy to grab onto hope on our own. Well, folks, a few days later, after James had been in the neonatal unit, an hour and a half from where I was hospitalized, I got the call. The doctors had diagnosed James with pulmonary atresia. This was a very rare heart and lung disease. I still hadn't seen him. I still hadn't held him. My heart sank. Was I ever going to hold my baby? Was I ever going to see him? What now, Lord? Those words, wait for, hope, and expect the Lord, they rang again in my ear. They were like the foghorn to point me towards Jesus, my hope, my lighthouse for the next 17 years of James's life. 17 years. As we sailed through the storms of sleepless nights and 17 heart and lung operations. Wait for and expect the Lord. Along with the well-known verses of Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans that I have for you, plans of hope and a future. Romans 8:28. For we know that all things work together for good for those who love God and for God's glory. Okay. I hear you now saying, but what became of hoping? What became of expecting? After all, it sounds like a horrible chapter in somebody's life. Well, you know what? It wasn't all horrible. But when the storms came, those verses were like God reaching down his hand, grabbing my hand and saying, take my hand, saying, I've got you. I've got your kids. I've got James. I am here. I am in the operating room. I've got your family. I'm walking right next to you. I'm right next to you. I'm walking next to your family. I'm right in the middle of this storm. I'm at the end. I have a plan. And it's going to be awesome. Yeah. No. I'm telling you the truth. Okay? I will be honest. When I was taking him to the hospital, driving 5 hours to Cleveland, getting phone calls to saying he had to be rushed to the emergency room, or sitting up in the hospital room with him. At that moment, it wasn't easy. At that moment, I couldn't see the end. At that moment, I didn't know. But you know what I did know? I did know those verses. And I did know that God was there with me. Because every time I was tempted to lose faith, to lose hope, I heard those verses ringing in my ear. Wait for, hope, and expect the Lord. No, it wasn't always hard. Those words gave me grace when I needed it, strength and direction when I needed it. The hope that came from everything that James and my family was going through, God was right there, going through it with us. And he was already at the end. And that was a reason for me to walk a little taller and to sing when I felt like crying. God had James and my kids and my family. And if he is big enough to carry the cross on his shoulders, he's big enough to carry us. The expected end during those storms was the very fact that God was at the end and that my family was going to be able to run into his arms, and he was going to say, I've got you. We got through it. James lived to be 17 years old, not 9 months like the doctors had expected. He didn't pass away when he was 9 months old. He saw 17 years. A testimony of strength and endurance came from that. For me and my entire family. In Psalms 39, verse 7, David is asking, and now, Lord, what do I wait for and expect? My hope and my expectations are in you. Are your hopes and expectations in the Lord? Are you feeling hopeless? Is your faith tank a little low? Or even running on empty right now? Are you in rough storms, feeling like your ship is about to tip over? Maybe a loved one is ill. Maybe you lost your job and now you're not sure how you're going to provide for your family. Maybe the divorce papers are sitting on the table waiting to be sent to the attorney. Maybe the doctor called and said, I'm sorry, you have cancer. Need some hope? Why not do what David did in Psalms 27:14? Wait for, hope, and expect the Lord. Be brave and of good courage, and let not your heart be troubled. Yes, wait for and expect for the Lord. Do you know God? Do you know that He longs to be the one that you call upon? He loves you so much. It doesn't matter what you've done, what's been done to you, where you've been. He loves you with an everlasting love, and you can't change His mind. And He's longing to be gracious to you. All you need to do is just literally say, God, I need you. I need you. I need hope. Isaiah 30:18 says, therefore, the Lord earnestly waits, expecting and looking and longing to be gracious to you. He lifts Himself up to have mercy upon you, to show you loving kindness. He is waiting for you at this very second to call upon Him. It's, like I said, as simple as a whisper. God, I need you. Come to my heart and in my life. Be my hope, be my Savior. Have you called upon Him to be your ultimate Savior, to be your hope? I challenge you to do that right now. If you just need a light at the end of the tunnel, a foghorn of hope, a sense of direction. contact me. If you would like somebody to pray with you or to show you more about hoping in God and having God as your hope and your lighthouse, I'll leave my link to my website at the bottom of this video so you can contact the ministry and we can help you call upon God to be your hope, to be your salvation. Thank you for stopping by and spending some time in the lighthouse, JC's Lantern Room, with me. I'm Donna Lupino, your illuminator, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time here in JC's Lantern Room.